The sky of Virexa burned with orange light as the two armies stood still. After years of war between humans and the Virexians, a temporary ceasefire had been agreed. For the first time in a decade, there was silence on the battlefield, Captain. Raiden Ward, a young human soldier with short dark hair and tired eyes, stood among his team. He was chosen to enter the alien capital alone, carrying the white flag of truce. His orders were simple: talk, listen, and survive. He was taken deep into the Virexian palace by tall alien guards with silver skin and glowing yellow eyes. They walked through halls carved from crystal and stone, decorated with war symbols. Every step echoed, heavy with tension. Finally, the doors opened to a grand throne room. There she was, Queen Jira, ruler of the Virexian Empire. She sat on a high throne of bone and metal, wearing a cloak made of golden feathers. Her skin shimmered like polished silver, and her long black hair fell over one shoulder. Her eyes were sharp, glowing like twin suns. Her presence was powerful. The entire court stood silent around her. Raiden bowed carefully, remembering his mission. "I come in peace," he said. Queen Jira stood. The room remained quiet. She walked down the steps slowly, stopping just a few feet from Raiden. "You are not like the others," she said. Her voice was calm but deep. "You are young, small, human." Raiden nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty, I've come to speak, not to fight." Jira tilted her head. "Interesting. You do not tremble. I've seen worse," Raiden replied. She turned away and faced her court. Dozens of nobles, generals, and warriors stood watching. They wore armor and long robes. Some of them sneered when they saw Raiden. Then Queen Jira raised her hand. "Let all present bear witness," she said loudly. "For the first time in our history, I have decided to choose a new mate." The crowd gasped. Even Raiden was surprised. What did this have to do with peace talks? But Jira wasn't done. "I will choose my mate not from my own kind," she said, turning again toward Raiden, "but from his kind." Shouts broke out across the room. One noble stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this is madness," he cried. "He is a human." But Queen Jira lifted her hand again, and silence returned. She pointed directly at Raiden. "I choose him." Raiden's heart skipped a beat. "Me?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but not without trial. Virexian law demands that any who wish to stand beside the Queen must prove their strength, their wisdom, and their will." Raiden looked around, confused. "I didn't come here to be chosen." Jira gave a small smile. "Then refuse. And you will be sent back to your people in shame, or worse." Raiden's fists clenched. He wasn't afraid of pain, but what kind of test was this? "What are the trials?" he asked. The Queen stepped closer. 3 trials. One of the body, one of the mind, and one of the spirit. If you pass, you may stand beside me. If you fail, you will not return." Raiden didn't answer right away. He had come here to seek peace, not to play in royal games. But something in Jira's eyes caught him. They weren't just testing him. They were searching for something. Was she tired of war too? Or was this a trap? Raiden finally nodded. "All right, I'll do it." The court erupted again. But Queen Jira only said, "Then let the first trial begin at dawn. Guards, prepare him." 2 Virexian soldiers stepped forward and led Raiden away. Raiden was taken to a stone room under the palace. There was no bed, no food, only a small table and a bowl of water. He sat down and leaned back, breathing deeply. What was he doing? Why him? He thought of his fallen friends, of Earth, of the endless fighting. Maybe this was the only way left. To end the war? The next morning, he was taken out of the palace in a black transport ship. A Virexian female named Commander Ilana, with a scar across her cheek, stood beside him. She didn't smile. "You're either brave or foolish," she said. "Both, probably," Raiden replied. She handed him a small translator device and a strange stone bracelet. "You will need this. The first trial takes place at the Mountain of Judgment, few return alive. Raiden nodded and stepped onto the rocky path. Ahead of him, the mountain stood like a jagged claw reaching into the sky. The climb was hard. The air grew thin, and sharp winds cut across his face. Fire vents from the mountains side-burst randomly. It was clear this wasn't just a natural mountain, it was a test built by the Virexians themselves. Raiden climbed for hours. At one point, he heard a cry high and scared. He looked to the side and saw a young Virexian child trapped between two rocks, holding on to a ledge. He could have ignored it. The trial didn't mention rescuing anyone, but he didn't. Raiden climbed down carefully and reached the child. "Hold on," he said. The child looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. "Are you the human?" he asked in fear. "Yes, but I'm not your enemy." Ew. With steady hands, Raiden pulled the child up and carried him to a safer spot. "Can you walk?" The child nodded. I think so." Raiden gave him his water bottle and pointed down the trail. "Go. Follow the marks. Someone will find you." The child stared at him in awe, then ran down. Raiden turned back and continued the climb. At the top of the mountain was a circle of stone. In the center sat a glowing blue stone surrounded by fire. The wind howled. A large beast with black fur and flaming eyes rose from behind the rocks. It looked like a mix between a bear and a lion twice his size. Raiden didn't have a weapon, only his fists and the bracelet. He studied the ground. The beast moved slowly, guarding the stone. Raiden grabbed a piece of rock and threw it. The beast chased the sound for a moment, then charged at him. He ran to the side, sliding under a rocky edge. The beast hit the wall, stunned for a second. Raiden jumped on its back and slammed the bracelet against its neck. It released a burst of light. The beast roared and fell unconscious. Breathing heavily, Raiden stepped forward and took the glowing stone. When he returned to the palace, covered in cuts and dust, the court went silent again. Queen Jira stepped forward. "You live," she said. "I do," Raiden replied, placing the glowing stone at her feet. She looked at him with curious eyes. The beast, still alive, just knocked out, and the child Raiden blinked. "You knew?" Jira gave a soft nod. "You were being watched." Raiden looked around. "So, ... did I pass?" The queen stepped closer, her voice lower now. "You passed the first trial. But more than that, you showed mercy and strength together." She turned to the court. "Let all remember this day," she said. "The human has begun his path. The next trial shall test his mind." The crowd murmured in disbelief. But no one dared speak against her, again at least not out loud. Raoiden looked at the queen. She wasn't just powerful, she was watching him with interest. Maybe even hope. And he began to wonder, was this really just a test of strength? Or something far greater? The sun had just risen over the Virexian capital, casting a purple light across the sky. The air was cool and silent, but inside the royal palace, whispers filled the halls. Everyone was still talking about the human. A human soldier had passed. The first trial, he had climbed the deadly mountain of judgment, defeated the beast, and returned with the glowing stone. He had even saved a Virexian child. No outsider had ever passed such a trial. And now, this human captain Raiden Ward was preparing for the second test. This one would be harder. Raiden stood alone in a chamber of black stone. His wounds from the first trial were healing, but his body still ached. He kept his mind sharp. He knew strength alone wouldn't be enough this time. Queen Jira entered the room. Her steps silent, her face calm. She studied him with her glowing, golden eyes. Many warriors passed the first trial. Few passed the second. Raiden looked at her. "What is it?" She motioned to the heavy door behind her. "It is called the Hall of Minds. It tests your memories, your thoughts, your truth. It will show you things from your past. You must face them. You must not run. If you break, the hall keeps you forever." Raiden stayed quiet. Felt a strange weight in his chest, but he nodded. "I'm ready," he said. Queen Jira watched him for a long moment. Then she spoke softly, almost like a whisper only meant for him. "This trial is not about war or strength. It's about pain, and who you are when no one is watching. Then she turned and walked away. The doors to the Hall of Minds opened. Raiden stepped into the hall. The room was round and filled with glowing blue crystals. Strange energy ran along the walls. As soon as he entered, the doors shut behind him and everything went dark. Then, light returned. But it wasn't the chamber anymore. It was Earth. Raiden blinked in surprise. He stood in the middle of a battlefield. A memory from years ago? He saw fire, smoke, screams, human soldiers running, ships crashing. He was back in the worst moment of his life. His Uniteam Echo 4 was being attacked. He saw himself younger, more hopeful, trying to help a wounded soldier. Ward. "Leave me," the man cried. "Get out of here." No, Raiden's past self shouted, "I'm not leaving you." But the explosion came too fast. The screen turned red. The memory ended. Raiden stood alone again, breathing heavily. The crystals around him glowed brighter, as if feeding off his pain. Then, another memory. This time, it was his family. He saw his brother Aaron, waving at him before leaving for his first mission. "I'll be back soon, Ray. Don't worry," but Aaron never came back. Raiden felt the guilt, the helplessness, the anger. It crushed his chest like a heavy rock. Why couldn't I stop him? Why couldn't I go instead? Raiden whispered. He fell to his knees. The hall whispered around him in a strange voice. "You carry pain. You carry failure. You are weak." Raiden's fist clenched. "No, you are broken," the voice hissed. "No." He stood up slowly. "Yes, I carry pain. Yes, I failed people. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. And I won't run from my past." The crystals pulsed. The voice went silent. The hall changed again. Now, Raiden stood in a field, peaceful, silent. Green grass moved in the wind. Ahead of him stood a figure, Queen Jira, but this wasn't real. It was a memory he didn't recognize. She stood alone, wearing simple clothes, not a crown. Her eyes were full of sadness. "What is this?" Raiden asked. The Queen Vision spoke. "This is not your memory. It is a piece of mine." Raiden stepped closer. "Why show me this?" The image of Jira looked at the horizon. "I was young when the war began. I was forced to be strong. I never got to grieve, never got to choose my life." Raiden was quiet. The image turned toward him. "Do you think I enjoy this trial?" Raiden shook his head. "No, but you want to be sure. It's about me, about trust." The vision of Jira nodded. "Alas, many. And I see pain in you too. That is why you might understand." Then the vision faded, and the hall began to shake. A bright light filled the room. The final test in the hall had begun. Raiden now stood before a mirror. But the reflection wasn't normal. It showed him angry, bitter, full of hate. "You could destroy them all," the reflection said. "The Virexians, the ones who killed your brother, the ones who made you suffer." Raiden stared at the mirror. "I'm not that man," he said. "You could be," it said back. "If you let the pain rule you," Raiden reached forward. He touched the mirror and it shattered. The hall went quiet, the crystals dimmed, the energy faded. The door opened. Raiden stepped out, tired but calm. Queen Jira stood waiting. She looked at him silently for a moment. Then, gently, she asked, "What did you see?" "Pain, guilt, loss," Raiden said. "But I faced it. I didn't let it control me." Jira nodded slowly. "You have passed." The Virexian nobles behind her looked shocked again. 2 trials. Passed by a human, Jira spoke to the court. He faced his mind, and he did not run. This human has strength not just in body but in heart. Raiden looked at her, wondering again why him. Jira's expression was unreadable, but her voice was soft. "There is one final trial. The trial of the spirit. The hardest of them all." Raiden gave a small smile, tired but ready. "I didn't come here to impress anyone," he said. "But if this is the only way to stop this war, I'll finish it." Jira's eyes met his. For a moment, her cold mask slipped in. She gave him a look of real respect. "I believe you," she said quietly. Later that night, Raiden sat alone in a high tower. He stared at the stars above Varexa. He missed Earth. He missed peace. But something was changing inside him. This wasn't just about duty anymore. It wasn't even about surviving. It was about understanding. Queen Jira was not what he expected. She was powerful, proud, and dangerous. But also alone? Just like him? Maybe? Just maybe? They were not so different. The skies above Varexa were darker than before. Thick gray clouds covered the twin moons, and strong winds blew through the palace towers. The entire city seemed to hold its breath. Inside the royal arena, thousands of Varexians filled the seats. Nobles, warriors, and commoners had gathered. They didn't come just to watch a trial. They came to witness a moment that might change history. A human Captain Raiden. Ward had passed 2 of the 3 royal trials. Now, he would face the 3rd and final one, the one only a few in Varexian history had ever survived. Raiden stood. In the preparation chamber beneath the arena, his armor was light, made from Varexian cloth that could resist fire and blade. His hands were wrapped, and his breath was calm. He had faced the mountain of judgment where he had defeated the beast and saved a child. He had passed the Hall of Minds, where he faced his own grief, guilt. In pain now came the pit of unity. He didn't know what waited inside. No one had told him. A low door opened, and Commander Alana walked in, the scarred Varexian warrior. Looked at him with mixed emotions. "You've come farther than anyone expected," she said. Rayde and nodded. "You still think I'm going to fail?" She paused. "I thought you would die in the first trial. Now, I don't know." She handed him a short Varexian blade. Its handle pulsed with energy. "You'll need this," she added. Mind, there are those who want to see you fall." Raiden raised an eyebrow. "Even now. Especially now," she said darkly. "Some believe if you pass, the Queen's rule will weaken. Traditions will break, enemies will rise." Raiden didn't reply. He just looked toward the gate. In the royal stands, Queen Jira stood tall in her golden armor. Her expression was unreadable, but her fingers were clenched tight around the rail. She had chosen this human. She had challenged her court, her people. In her history now, she waited and watched. A deep horn echoed through the arena. Rayden stepped into the arena center. The crowd gasped and murmured. Some cheered. Many remained silent. He stood alone on the sand, facing a giant steel gate on the other side. Then the gate opened. A massive creature stepped out. Its body was made of stone and bone, shaped like a gorilla with 6 arms. Its eyes glowed red. Each step it took shook the ground. Raiden tightened his grip on the blade. "This must be the challenge," he whispered. The beast roared and charged. Raiden dodged, rolling to the side. The beast smashed into the wall where he had been standing. Breaking the stone, Raiden sliced at one of its arms, but his blade bounced off. The creature was too strong, too thick. He needed to outsmart it. He ran toward the center pillar and climbed. The beast followed, roaring and smashing the base. Raiden jumped onto the creature's back and stabbed near its eye. The blade pierced a weak point. The beast screamed and threw him off. Raiden hit the ground hard, dust rising around him. He stood slowly, his body aching, but he didn't give up. He attacked again, faster now, dodging its strikes and aiming at joints. After several minutes of battle, the beast collapsed, groaning. Raiden stood over it, panting, his blade bloody. The crowd stared in silence. Then they began to cheer. But something was wrong. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the stands. A group of warriors dressed in black armor jumped from the upper rows, landing. Inside the arena, they weren't part of the trial. They were assassins. Raiden turned, blade ready. One of the attackers rushed him with twin daggers. Raiden blocked the strike and kicked him backward. Another came from behind. Raiden ducked and countered, slicing through his leg. 3 more circled him. High above, Queen Jira stood in shock. "Guards," she shouted, but it was clear this. was planned an inside betrayal. Someone didn't want Raiden to survive. Jera's face turned cold. Her golden eyes narrowed. She leaped from the royal platform, 20 feet down, and landed beside. "Why?" The crowd gasped. The queen had entered. The arena herself. Jera moved like lightning, her blade dancing through the air. She cut down one assassin in seconds. Raiden fought beside her. "Back to back. You didn't have to jump in," he said while blocking a strike. "I chose you," she replied. "That means I fight with you." Together they fought like a single force. The assassins were skilled, but not skilled enough. One by one, they fell. Finally, the last attacker dropped his weapon and knelt. Jera stepped forward. "Who sent you?" she asked. The assassin looked up, smiling. "It's the ones who do not want a human on our throne." Then he bit down on a capsule and collapsed, lifeless. Silence returned to the arena. Jera looked around. She had broken every law of distance between queen and trial, but they had seen it all. She turned to Raiden, her voice firm. "The trial is complete." Raiden raised an eyebrow. "Even with all that?" Jera nodded. "You faced the beast. You faced betrayal, and you still stood. You've passed." The crowd began to cheer louder now, not just clapping, but shouting his name. Dra Wadien. Raiden looked up at the stands, stunned. Later in the palace halls. Queen Jera walked beside him. "You've done what no one thought possible," she said. "You've earned the right to stand beside me." Raiden looked at her. "Why me? Why not one of your own?" Jera stopped walking. "Because I've seen enough war. Enough arrogance. Enough pain. I wanted someone who could see beyond blood and power. Someone strong and different." She stepped closer. "And now I must ask you something," she said. Raiden nodded. "Go ahead." Her voice was calm, but powerful. "Will you accept me? As your mate, not for glory, but to build something new? Together." Raiden looked into her eyes. He remembered the trials, the pain, the truths they both faced, and he smiled. "I will." That night, lights danced across the Virexian sky. For the first time in centuries, humans and Virexians celebrated together. The queen had chosen a human not as a slave, not as a prisoner, but as a partner, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The palace of Virexa was alive with energy. Music echoed through the marble halls, and bright lights flickered from alien lanterns. Virexians and humans mixed together in celebration. For a moment, peace seemed possible. Queen Jera walked beside Captain Raiden Ward. The court watched them closely. Some smiled, some whispered, some scowled. Not everyone was happy. In a dark room deep beneath the palace, a group of Virexian nobles gathered. Their faces were hard, their eyes filled with anger. "This is madness," one growled, a human. "Chosen as our queen's mate, it will destroy our traditions," another sneered. "He is a weak outsider. Soon the empire will fall." The leader, a tall man with a scar across his eye, slammed his fist on the table. "We must act before the union is complete." Back in the palace, Raiden and Jera stood on a balcony, looking out at the city lights below. "You seem troubled," Raiden said softly. Jera sighed. "I want peace, but my people. Many do not agree." Raiden nodded. "It's not easy to change old ways, but together we can try." She smiled faintly. "You have strength beyond what I imagined. Not just in battle, but in heart." He looked at her. "I feel the same. I never expected this when I came here." Days passed, and preparations for the official ceremony began. Raiden trained with Virexian warriors to learn their fighting style. Jera studied human history and culture. They shared stories, laughter, and sometimes silence. Slowly, a bond grew stronger. One evening, during a quiet walk in the palace gardens, Raiden noticed Jera staring at the stars. "Do you miss your home?" he asked. She nodded. "Virexa is my world. But I have never known true peace, only war and duty." Raiden reached out and took her hand. "Maybe now, with us together, that can change." looked at him, hope shining in her eyes, but danger lurked in the shadows. The rebel nobles planned their move carefully. They spread rumors among the people that the queen had been tricked by a human spy, that Raiden was here to weaken Virexa for Earth's benefit. The night before the ceremony, an attack came. The palace alarms blared as rebel forces stormed the gates. Raiden and Jira fought side by side, leading the palace guards. The battle was fierce, flashing blades, bright energy blasts, and the cries of warriors filled the air at one point. A rebel warrior charged at Jira with a spear. Raiden pushed her aside, taking the blow himself. He gritted his teeth, but stood firm. "Is this the strength you wanted to see?" he said, looking at the attackers. The rebels were strong, but Raiden's tactics and Jira's command turned the tide. Slowly, the palace defenders pushed back the invaders. The rebel leader fell to the ground, defeated. After the battle, the palace was quiet. Jira looked at Raiden, gratitude and admiration in her eyes. "You saved my life and our future." Raiden smiled. "We saved it together." The next day, the ceremony took place, in front of the gathered crowd. Queen Jira took Raiden's hand and spoke. "This union is not just mine. It is for all Virexians and humans. Together, we will build peace." The crowd cheered, some with hesitation, some with joy. Rayden looked at the crowd, then back at ZHERA. He felt hope for peace, for friendship, for a new future. The morning sun rose slowly over Virexa, its light spilling across the ancient palace and the city below. The battle from the night before was over, but its marks remained: broken walls, scorched earth, and tired faces. Still, people gathered in the great square. Humans and Virexians stood side by side, watching as Queen Jira and Captain Raiden Ward appeared on the balcony above. The moment had come. Raiden took a deep breath, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes on him. Beside him, Jira's presence was calm but strong. Together, they faced their people to different worlds united. Jira raised her hand. "Today," she said, "we begin a new chapter. Not just for Virexa, but for all who seek peace in this galaxy." She looked at Raiden. "Captain Ward is no longer just a human soldier. He is my mate, my partner, and my equal." Erupted in cheers and shouts. Many still held doubt. But the sight of their queen standing with a human gave hope to thousands. But peace was fragile. From the shadows, enemies still plotted. A group of rogue Virexian soldiers, loyal to the old ways, launched a surprise attack on the city's defense. Towers, Raiden, and Jira were ready. With their combined forces, they led the defense. Raiden's human tactics brought new ideas to the battlefield: quick maneuvers, surprise strikes, and teamwork across species. Jira's command inspired warriors to fight with honor and courage. Together, they turned the tide during the battle. A rogue soldier managed to break through the line and rush toward the palace. Raiden saw him coming. Weapon raised, without hesitation, he moved to block the attack. The two clashed, sword against blade, strength against strength. Raiden remembered the trials, the battles, and the Queen's challenge. With a final, powerful strike, he disarmed the rogue and held him down. The city was safe. Jira appeared beside Raiden, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We face many dangers," she said softly, "but together we are stronger." Raiden smiled, stronger than anyone expected. In the days that followed, humans and Virexians worked side by side. Trade routes opened, technology was shared, friendships grew. Raiden and Jira traveled between worlds, meeting leaders, building alliances, and spreading the message of peace. One quiet evening, back in the palace gardens, Raiden and Jira sat beneath the stars. "I never dreamed this would happen," Raiden said. Jira looked at him, her eyes shining. "Neither did I." They reached for each other's hands. "We proved strength isn't just about battle," Raiden said. "It's about trust, hope, and courage." Jira nodded. "And that is the strongest power of all." As the moons rose over Virexa, anew, dawn began. Two worlds. once enemies, now stood together, and the story of the human and the alien queen became a legend, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and unity could light the way.